into the stretch. Looking back and throws up the middle. Rose is on his way around. Picked up by Otis.
Here comes the ready or not. Here comes the boys from the south. Here comes the ready or not. How you like me now? I say, here comes the boom, ready or not. Here comes the boys from the south. Boom, here comes the boom, ready or not. How you like me now?
You don't live in Cleveland, you live in Cincinnati.
You are watching live to the best damn Cincinnati sports podcast this side of Script Coffee in Lebanon, Ohio. New brick and mortar location, folks. Hit it up. My name is Santori Miles. We got Cincy James. We got Big Savage Greg. We got Bengal Dad sporting a goatee. And the one, the only, Jay Morrison. How we doing?
I'm doing great. I love the POD bumper music. That just gets me in the mood.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Gotta love it. Well, Greg, I think that you probably have a question for Jay to go ahead and get us started.
You know, Jay, I'll just cut to the chase here. Is Joe Mixon going to be a Bengal next year?
No, but nothing has been decided yet, but I'd be stunned if he is. I'm sure you guys saw the same thing, Matthew Berry's column today. I mean, that was a long column, and it's an oh, by the way, at the end of it's more rumor than a report. Doesn't mean it's wrong, but I don't believe if they are going to part ways with Mixon, which I think they are, I don't think they've informed him yet, or it would be out there. And they're sure as heck not saying it to anybody else. So I think he's just following the speculation that we've been saying it for weeks, 90-95% chance that he's gone. It's coming down to, can they convince Mike Brown? He's got a soft spot in his heart for Joe Mixon. I was on another pod last night and I said this, that if it was up to the front office and the coaches, they know what they need to do, but Mike is a loyal guy. And I think there's some discussions going on, and maybe they continue to go on through free agency. Maybe they don't feel comfortable making that decision until they know they've signed a guy or two in free agency. But still, it wouldn't stun me to hear the Bengals announce it tomorrow or Friday or even next week before they've signed anyone. But just knowing the way they operate, I could see them waiting so they know they've got someone before they make the call.
Mm-hmm.
And you, I think, had an article come out today talking about how the Bengals are really good at letting people walk and letting them go before they hit that wall, and then they leave and they hit the wall. Maybe this is one of those instances where that could happen.
Yeah, I don't know about that, because I still think Joe can be a really good running back in this league for the right offense. I mean, I could see him land in Vegas with Marvin and that crew out there. What the Bengals want to do, he doesn't fit. Teams they've got light boxes. They're focused on stopping the run. You have to punish defenses that are going to do that. If the play says you should get 5 yards, Joe gets 5, maybe 6. You need a guy that can bust it up in there and get 10, 12, 15, 20, 25 and really hurt these defenses. And Joe can't. He can't do. He does it he can't do it on a regular basis anymore. So that's what they're looking for, is more explosion. And he's been great. He's led this team in rushing for 7 straight years. He's been everything they hoped he would be when they took him in the second round in 2017. Doesn't fumble, doesn't lose yards, scores touchdowns, converts short yardage. It's just time comes for all of us. And he's slowing down, and that's not the kind of back that this offense needs right now.
Well, I'm glad you said that about the statistics. I'm a very analytical, spreadsheety person when it comes to football, which I know
Kindred
some people like.
Here.
Some people like, some people don't. Joe's production isn't necessarily a problem. It's not great. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's very much, I think I put it out there today, most of his stats fall within the 50th percentile on everything that he does. 4 yards a carry, great. Well, you got guys 4.5 to 5. He's not 3. He's not 3.5.
Yeah.
But he's 4. My issue with Joe, and this is ultimately with what's coming down with the decision, at least in my mind, is the cap hit versus his production. If I had Joe on a rookie contract, 200 carries a year, 800 to 1,000 yards a year, I wouldn't be thinking anything of it. But the fact that he's looking at 8 to 10 million a year at this point in his career and getting production that most of the league could get if given the opportunity that he's given with the enormous amount of touches he gets, it's not worth the price per production in my mind. And that's what it comes down to.
That's a big part of it. I mean, it's still, as far as numbers like his elusivity rating, he doesn't make guys miss. He doesn't get a lot of yards after contact. That all plays into it, even though, he gets the 4, he gets the 5. You'll live with 4 yards of carry all day, but you need to pop some big ones. The salary cap, the hit number is a big part of it. Do $8.5 million this year. I mean, they could ask him to take a pay cut. Maybe he says, yeah. Maybe he says, I'm good with the $3 million that I'm guaranteed on March 17th. I still think their preference is just to sever ties and move on and not even ask him to do that again. And I don't know that he would. They asked him to take a pay cut last year, and he did. He's a proud guy, and I don't know that he would be willing to take another pay cut this year. I think it's why it's just best to sever ties, because you're not only going to ask him to take a pay cut, you're going to ask him to take a workload cut. You're going to have Chase Brown eating into his production, and how's that going to sit? Joe's been an energy guy and a popular guy in that locker room, but is he going to become a problem? And I just think they just want to avoid all of that and say, thanks for 7 great years, and let's move on.
Yeah, I think you made excellent points there. Bengal Dad, you had a question I know that you put in our group chat earlier.
Yeah, it's switching gears to a subject that it's come up the last 2 or 3 years about the Bengals need to take a tight end early. They need to take a tight end. Do you believe with the scheme of offense that this team runs that even if they had an elite tight end, it would make that big of a difference? Do you think they'd use him?
They'd use him, yeah, but I don't know that he would put up elite numbers, because you're still Chase and Higgins are going to be the primary targets, and they're going to run the ball and punish teams when they get the light boxes. And I think that's the big question. What if Brock Bowers is there at 18? I don't know that they take him. I think they are content to have a really solid weapon at that position. And it's kind of like safety and running, and they just don't value the position. They haven't drafted a tight end since they took Drew Sample in the second round in 2019, and you have to go back to 2015 to find another tight end that they drafted with a premium pick, and that was Tyler Kroft in the 3rd round, who was one of those guys they let walk and then didn't live up to his new contract with the Bills. So it would be great, if you can draft a guy in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, and he's a project and he explodes into one of these really elite tight ends, then great. But I don't know that they can afford to invest that kind of either free agency dollars or that kind of draft capital into going and targeting a guy like a Bowers or someone like that. They've got bigger, more pressing needs, and they went to the Super Bowl with CJ Uzomah, who had a perfectly fine season, but it wasn't elite. And they went to the championship game the year after that with Hayden Hurst, who had average numbers for a tight end. They can make this work with a good tight end who's a fit, who, like, if they can find one like Hurst, or maybe Hurst himself and bring him back, who can be a weapon in the passing game and is a good blocker. It seemed like all the guys they had last year were kind of one-trick ponies. They were either really good receivers or they were really good blockers. And if you could get a guy like Hurst back that can do both, that would be ideal. But Hurst had that horrible concussion last year, and he had the post-traumatic amnesia. I don't know if he wants to play again. I don't know if he's healthy enough to play, even if he wants to. But if he does, and he's medically cleared, he would be a great fit here. He got $13 million guaranteed to go to Carolina on a 3-year deal. He only played 1 year, but $13 million is life-changing money for most of us. He could come back here on a deal similar to that $3.5 million one that he signed in 2022, and he would be welcomed with open arms in this locker room.
Yeah, I for one hope that they just focus on protecting Burrow.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any more important thing they can do than that.
Yeah,
which is why they're not going to take a tight end in the first round, because it's going to be an offensive tackle, maybe a defensive tackle. But I fully expect them to take an offensive tackle in free agency and in the draft, either in the 1st or the 2nd round.
Well, and it's because of kind of what both of you, Bengal Dad and Jay, have just said, that I don't necessarily think that getting a superstar tight end really matters. When you go back to the Super Bowl run with Uzama, and then you go to the AFC Championship run that they had with Hurst, and then you look at what they did the second half of the season with Tanner Hudson.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers all kind of come out to a very, very similar plateau for what the tight end position does as a room, seemingly regardless of who's there. There's definitely a type that works best, but I've seen 3 different guys in 3 years put up very similar numbers, and people go, "Oh, let's get Brock Bowers." I'm like, I think he's going to cap out at like 500 yards, guys. I don't really know if it matters to spend the extra $8 million to get the same production I'm going to get out of a 3rd or 4th round pick.
Yeah, I mean, the difference might be he might have a game or two where he's the guy and he's an explosive, and he has one of those like Tyler Eifert at Oakland games in the opener in 2015, 3 touchdowns, and that kind of thing could happen. And the counterpoint to that too is, T and Jamar are not diva guys. They're not give me the ball. They would be happy if a tight end came in and kind of shared that load. I just think they have bigger needs elsewhere, and that's why if they get a guy like that, they're certainly not going to not throw him the ball. They're going to make him a part of it, but they're going to hope that he bubbles up and they make a really good, smart draft pick in the mid rounds.
Mm-hmm. Jay, speaking of bigger needs, you mentioned offensive line. Who in free agency you got? There's Trent Brown, Tyron Smith, Luminor. Do you see any of those guys where you could sign them to a 2 to 3 year deal and think, oh, I don't have to draft, even though they probably would still draft a guy at 18? Do you see a guy that you can trust where you don't necessarily have to draft an offensive lineman in the first round?
No, because not only do they need a right tackle, they need a swing tackle. There's nobody on this roster right now that inspires confidence that he could step in and be your first off the bench on the left or the right side. All five linemen played all 17 games last year. That just doesn't happen. You're going to have injuries. You need somebody that can step in. I think like a Trent Brown, a Mekhi Becton, who's played for Frank Pollock in the past. Yeah. One of those guys could step in and be the guy this year, but you still, Becton's young enough. Trent Brown's going to be 32, 2-year deal max for him, but you're still looking for that tackle of the future. Whether it's 5 years at least as a first rounder and get the 5th year option, or what they hoped they were going to get with Jonah, where you draft a guy in the first round, you're like, this is our tackle for the next 10 years. They need that, and they have a big need at defensive tackle too. But I think it just comes down to it's a very top heavy. It's a great offensive tackle class. Who knows? Maybe there's a run and 5 of them are gone before they pick at 18, and then they have to pivot a little bit and they get one of the best defensive tackles that somehow slides to them. But if one of their top 2 or 3 are on the board at 18, I think that's the direction they go.
Well, I'm personally hoping that they do a little bit of a combination of what you and Greg just said, which is I would definitely want the guy at 18 if he's there, whether that's a guy like Latham. I'm not super sold on Mims because of the low amount of starts he's had in college, but the tape's definitely fun to watch. Regardless of who that guy is at 18, I need somebody on at least a 1 to 2 year deal that can step in and be that swing tackle, or if the guy at 18 just isn't working out right away, whether that's Becton or somebody else. I'd love to see them double down, even if it's a cheap deal at 1 year, $4 or $5 million, whatever it is, just to get that third tackle. I don't think there's anything more important sports-wise in this city right now than protecting Joe.
Yeah, and Becton doesn't want to play right tackle, and
nobody does.
Illuminor has been a right tackle. Trent Brown played left tackle the last 2 years, but he's had more starts at right tackle in his career, so he would be comfortable there. And your point's good, because you say, what if the guy's not ready? Well, what if he's never? I mean, this team does not have a great track record drafting offensive linemen. You have to hedge that bet.
Yeah, we can just keep hoping Jackson Carman will be ready by year 8.
He's going to be one of those let him walks, I'm afraid, after this year.
I'm not sure I'd be afraid of letting him walk.
Oh, gosh. Speaking of needs, obviously free agency, the legal tampering period opens up on Monday, and then Wednesday, the floodgates open. What is the biggest target for the Bengals? Not necessarily a person, but a position. What target do you think is the one that they're just going to hammer?
Yeah, so we on our podcast today, the PFN Bengals podcast I do with Dallas Robinson, we had a draft, and we drafted the most likely position for them to add players and dollars, and you get points for how many players they add there, and then you get points for how many dollars they spend on that player. And defensive tackle went first in that draft. I think that's where they have to go. I was surprised at the combine how optimistic that Lou sounded about Joseph Osai, and he's a guy that can move inside and rush from the inside on third down. I think you might see Sam Hubbard as he gets older start moving inside a little bit more and rushing from in there. BJ Hill is still really effective. I don't think you have to. I think they've got a decent enough base there that they can have a nice rotation of three techs to rush the passer. What they really need is a DJ Reader replacement, the big wide body run stuffer that you can plug in there to stop these running attacks of the AFC North. And I think that's a direction they need to go. Question is, a lot of those guys that are available are on the wrong side of 30 or close to it. So, is it a 1 year stopgap, a 2 year stopgap? I don't know that it's a good question on where the bulk of the free agency money is going to go position wise, but I can almost guarantee there's going to be a defensive tackle taken in free agency. And then we had offensive tackle and safety right there as the next two picks, because it really sounds like they're unsure about Dax Hill. And if you go out and sign a veteran safety, that just answers that question. You move Dax to corner and you let DJ Turner kind of be the CB4 for a year. And then Mike Hilton's probably gone after next year or after this year, and DJ Turner can move into that slot position. That's probably his ideal spot. So I think a veteran safety would make sense. Just a guy that's seen it all, that can be the quarterback there and make sure the communication is on point. That they love Dax Hill's athleticism, but he was making some September mistakes in December and January, and I think that's what gave them pause about, is this the right spot for him? So I put safety and offensive tackle right there with defensive tackle as the most likely positions to be targeted in free agency.
Did not hear Nick Scott's name. Does that mean he's not going to be a Bengal?
It wouldn't cost him a lot to part ways with him. He does have value on special teams, and he's cheap. So it wouldn't surprise me. And you can ride with four safeties, although Tyson Anderson was playing special teams at a Pro Bowl level last year. I think his spot is secure. Then again, he's coming back from an ACL tear. You never know how quickly the guys are going to bounce back. But yeah, if you move Dax to corner, then you're talking about Jordan Battle, Nick Scott, a free agent, and Tyson Anderson, your four safeties. So yeah, I think there's a spot for Nick Scott. It's not in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
Santori, Greg, when you guys got one?
T. Higgins. T. Higgins. First of all, a two-part question. Is he a Bengal next year? And if yes, is he a Bengal after that year?
You mean this year, 2024? Yeah.
Do you think he gets traded? But if not, and he plays on the tag. Do you see him walking after this year? If he doesn't get traded?
Yeah, walking, or maybe the tag and trade comes next year. I'd be stunned if they traded him this year. I mean, if somebody comes in and blows their socks off with an offer, then yeah, they would be open to it. But players don't like to be tagged, and T hasn't signed the tag, and they can't trade him until he signs the tag. So if he's not happy about being tagged and they try to work out a trade, maybe he just doesn't sign it and kind of sticks it to him, so to speak. It's not in T's nature, but it is in the nature of his agent, David Mulgeta, who was Jesse Bates' agent. So it just makes, there's no way T's sitting out. He's not giving up $21.8 million.
Right.
Very little chance that they trade him. So yeah, I absolutely think they run it back one more year with Chase and Higgins, and then they'll see what happens next year. You just never know. But they can afford to sign him to an extension. But is it the right thing to do? I mean, you've got all this money wrapped up in Burrow and Orlando Brown, and Chase is going to have a market-setting deal. And I don't know that that's the best way to go about it. I love everything about T. Higgins, and I would hate to see him go. He's been good to us. He's been good to the fans based on who he is as a person and who he is as a player. It'll be a sad day when he leaves, but that's what happens when you build a roster like this and you start threatening to go to Super Bowls. Hard decisions have to be made, and I think T is going to be a victim of that.
Well, I think – oh, go ahead, Dad.
Just playing off of that, do you think the front office prefers if they could get a sweetheart deal for an extension with T versus a sweetheart trade for T? What do you think they prefer?
I don't know. I'd probably have to see the terms of the trade. I can't imagine a sweetheart deal. That's just not how the agents operate. And as much as he would like to be here, these guys get one guaranteed bite at the big contract. And I mean, yeah, 8.8 is a pretty big contract, but we're talking about generational wealth if he can get a 3-year, $75 million deal. And if he walks in free agency next year, you're probably already talking about getting a 3rd-round pick, a comp pick. So, if you trade him, what are you going to get? A 2 and a 3? I think that, that more than likely that we're just going to see him play this year on the tag, and then say thanks, and good luck in your future job next year.
Well, and personally, I am of the opinion that I don't think it's smart to extend T. Higgins.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I do not like, and this is what I call it, paying 2 players at a position of duality when there's 2 of them on the field at the same time. I can understand on bookend tackles and pass rushers. But if there's 2 receivers on the field at the same time, I don't like paying both. I'd rather pay one, draft one. Guards, pay one, draft one. Linebackers, they're paying both right now, but they got a pretty good deal with Wilson and Pratt. Corners, pay one, draft one. When you start paying 2 guys that start at the same position, as much as everybody kind of giggles at the pie analogy from Mike Brown, at the end of the day, the salary cap can be manufactured at times, but it is still very much there. You saw it with the Bills today. They unloaded half their team. Mm-hmm. But when you pay 2 guys at the same position, you really, really eat into that pie, especially when you have a quarterback on a mega deal like Burrow.
Well, I was just going to say, it's not just 2 guys at the same position. It's teams are finding it hard. You can't – I don't know that you're going to find too many teams that have a top-of-the-market quarterback and a top-of-the-market receiver. The Packers couldn't do it. They had to get rid of Devontae Adams. The Chiefs couldn't do it. They had to get rid of Tyreek Hill. And now maybe the Dolphins don't extend Tua because, they've got Tyreek Hill on this deal. If they want to keep him, you can't keep them all. And that's going to be – they're keeping Jamar. We know, I mean, that's going to happen. And there's no way that those guys don't want to break up the Burrow-Jamar combination. The players don't, and the team obviously doesn't. So it would really be a tough wedge to get a T contract in there.
When do you think that Chase extension happens?
Yeah, it's a good question because he's willing to wait. He wants to see what Justin Jefferson does if he resets the market, and he's eligible right now. But more than likely it's going to be next year, and maybe it's not next year. Maybe he plays on the 5th-year option, and then they don't do the extension until after that. There's a lot of maneuvering there because Tyreek Hill's coming up again. You got all these guys, and everybody wants to wait it out. Everybody wants to go last because they don't want to sign it and have everybody else jump over him. Right. And Jamar has said that he's been more open about contract talks than any player I can ever remember talking to. And he's willing to wait. He wants to wait it out. So I don't think there's a rush there on the Bengals side. I don't think there's a rush on Jamar's side.
Yep. Santori?
I'm good right now. I'm sure I'll springboard off something somebody says.
Greg, you had like 4 or 5 different questions written down.
Yeah, no. I mean, I got to look back on my questions here. I want to go back to the offensive line because, I was talking to Santori about this. I get nervous when the draft comes and all that and stuff, and Santori always has to drag me back to planet Earth. I'm like, all the tackles are going to be gone. Nobody's going to be there at 18. And I'm like, this guy's going to be there. And he's like, Greg, you just named 20 players that are not going to be there at 18 and all that and stuff. So, you made a good – do you see where all those tackles – because Mims – I was all for taking Mims, but the pro day he had, I'm like, he's going to be way gone, I think, before 18. But do you see a scenario where all the tackles could be gone? Like all 5 or 6 tackles could be gone?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing because that means probably the 2 top defensive tackles might slide because the receivers are going to be there, the quarterbacks are going to go. I don't know. I'd have to go back. It's a good question because I'd have to go back and look and see what the record is for number of offensive tackles taken in the first 17. I mean, has it been 5 before? Has it, I think it's not about how many go. It's about how the Bengals have them on their board.
Right.
Because, if they've got a guy that's number 4 on their board and he's number 1 or 2 and everybody else, and they're saying, oh, you got to get him, but they've got other guys ahead of him. I don't know that they're going to press and take one, especially if they get a decent starter in free agency, because they've got those other needs. And maybe they go defensive tackle and then wait and see what kind of offensive tackles are available in the second round. But it's so hard to predict. It's so hard too, because you look at the teams ahead of them and say, well, who could possibly take a tackle? But then you've got the variable of, well, who jumps over them? Do the Steelers?
Yeah.
It's very likely to jump over them, or very possible. I shouldn't say likely, but very possible. They need offensive line help. And if a guy that is sitting there a couple picks ahead of the Bengals that they like, they've done it before. They did it with Devin Bush. They jumped ahead of him and plucked him when maybe the Bengals would have drafted him. So there's so many moving parts. It's hard to say. If I had to guess, I think it's going to be a tackle. I don't think they're all going to be gone, but we'll see in a couple months.
Well, the other thing about that, like you mentioned with the board, right? We all kind of have a general consensus at this point of where most big boards lie, but that doesn't mean that the Bengals don't have their big board and everything where, there might be a guy like a Patrick Paul or a Guyton who's sitting there. And for me, that's back end of 1, 2, second round area. And they might have him as their number 3, and they're sitting there, and Greg's going, oh, my God, all 5 are gone. And the Bengals are like, well, my number 2 guy's still here. And they pluck him. And then everybody for us on our end, we're going, oh, my God, they reached a whole round. What are they doing? And the Bengals are like, no, that was our guy. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we're still on the outside looking in. We don't even know what they consider their top 5 guys.
And don't forget about option B or C or wherever we're at on this, but they like to trade back. And they like to get extra picks, and 18 is kind of in that tweener zone. And I could see them going back into the mid-20s, maybe even 10 spots to 28 if they get a really good deal for it and get an extra third. If all the guys are gone that they like, that I think that is a very real possibility.
Regarding trading back, because the last couple times they've done it, they've come away with a kicker or a punter. They kind of need one right now still. It hasn't worked out great in the last 2 go-arounds. Do you see that being addressed in free agency, a competition? I mean, they did spend draft capital on Robbins. It's not like you want to give up on that right away. Is Chrisman still hanging around? I know he works out in the city a lot. What are we thinking for that position right now?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they brought Chrisman back in, but I could see them bringing in a veteran. Well, Darren Simmons said it. They're bringing somebody in. Would they buy somebody in free agency? I don't know. Darren seemed to he admitted that Brad has to get better. There's a lot of improvement that needs to be done. He thinks he has it in him. He sees the potential. He doesn't feel like that pick was a bust. And Darren's a straight shooter. I don't think he's blowing smoke when he says that. So more than likely, I think maybe soon as the draft is over, because a lot of punters don't get drafted anyhow. So you're still going to have your pick of one of the top punters at the end of the draft. And it's like college recruiting all over again. If only one punter gets drafted, say number 2 and number 3 are like, okay, what's the best spot for me? Well, I know there's question marks in Cincinnati, and oh, by the way, it's a really good team, chance to win a ring and all that. I think it would be an attractive spot for a guy to come in and try to battle Brad Robbins. I can't see him using a draft pick again on a punter, and I wouldn't rule out a free agency punter, but I think that's the way they go is getting one in undrafted college free agency right after the draft and see what happens with Brad Robbins.
We are right at 7:30. Now you said you could give us about 25, 30 minutes. Does anybody else have anything? Any last questions for Jay?
I've got one last thing. You know, we hear, well, as you call it, reporting, and we hear rumors. What's your take on where Joe Burrow is right now with his wrist?
Well, I mean, he said it at his event on Sunday that mid-May is what he's shooting for. Even when the injury first happened, the doctors who deal with that type of injury didn't necessarily work with Joe, but they know what that type of injury is. The timeline they had put it around late April. So everything the Bengals have said, he's in the building all the time, working out. He's able to lift now, which means he can grip the dumbbells, barbells, whatever it is. So I think there's questions. There's not been a lot of quarterbacks, if any, that I can think of that have had this injury. So, is it something that even if he makes the full recovery, is it still something that's going to compromise him in any way, his strength, his torque, whatever that is? That's a question mark. But the doctor that did the surgery expects a full recovery, Burrow, and the doctors for the Bengals expect a full recovery. And Burrow said at his event that he doesn't typically throw till OTAs anyhow. Although, I remember a couple of years ago, he talked about how much he worked on adding velocity and footwork and mechanics. And so he did throw that off season. So I don't have any major concerns about whether he'll be okay, but there's always going to be that doubt in the back of your mind because they're stacking up. You don't want to say he's injury plagued, but there are a lot of them and they've been a little freaky, but I think there's a little bit of unease about how often he's dealing with something.
Hearing that he's gripping a dumbbell and lifting that, I mean, when the last time we saw him, he couldn't hold a football, couldn't even grip it to be able to throw it. That gives me a lot of confidence as a fan. Just hearing those words come out of your mouth, that makes me feel really good.
Yeah, and I mean, he said lifting, so he didn't go into details about it, but I assume that's what he meant. I'm sure he's not just lifting with his left hand. So, I think everything's progressing the right way.
Well, then, awkwardly enough, this might be one of the healthier off seasons he has.
We said that last year, and then the second day of training camp, boom, pop goes the calf.
You said it. Why'd you jinx it? No.
I don't know if I can jinx him. It's always hurt.
Well, I think I speak for everybody, Jay. Thank you so much for hopping on here and just giving us your time. We really, really do appreciate it.
Yeah, and I want to say too, because I know you guys are you're talking about the boards and the mock drafts and all that thing, and we have a mock draft simulator at Pro Football Network, and I met the guy behind a lot of it at the Combine this week. He's going to be a Daniel Jeremiah, Dane Brugler type, and he's a young kid, Ian Cummings. He puts in the work, and if you go to that, I don't know if it's up yet, but very soon you're going to go to that mock draft simulator, and when you click on a player, there's going to be a sheet of it's got to be like a mini beast from Dane. There's going to be like 10 bullet points. So a lot of people just go in and see the names and say, I'll take him. You'll be able to click on a name and read all kinds of scouting observations from these guys and make a better, more informed mock draft. So I'm really looking forward to that kicking off and just encourage you guys and anybody that's watching the show to check it out.
You can confirm. We haven't had Ian on our show, but I guess I'll call it a sister show at this point, Bengals and Brews, because Greg is a co-host on their show as well. I know they've had Ian on at least once.
Yeah.
So he's
terrific.
He's fantastic. He really is.
Unfortunately, I had to work overtime plowing snow, so I wasn't able to make that. But out of all the times, but no.
Yep.
But thanks again, Jay. We're gonna let you get out of here so you can enjoy the rest of your night.
All right, sounds good. Good talking to you guys.
Yep. See you. All right. A lot of good insight there.
There we go.
Absolutely.
Tons of good insight.
So
and now
Joe Burrow's lifting weights.
He's lifting.
Nixon's getting kicked out of town. And we got Dale in the background.
Dale
waiting in the shadows.
Oh God, I gotta speak now.
Hey Dale, do you know who Ian Cummings is?
Yeah, dude, he was incredible. I literally messaged him after our show, and I said the same thing. I said, listen, man, I've been a big draft guy for 20 years. I said, Daniel Jeremiah and the guy, Matt Miller, who's now at ESPN, when Matt Miller was doing it and listening to his podcast, I was like, this guy's going to be the next big thing before he was on any network, like major network. And that is in. He's good. He knows his stuff.
Are we going to get to see that pretty face or what, Dale?
Maybe eventually. I need Greg to dance for me first.
Oh, no.
Wrong show.
Well, now that we've got Dale and Santori on here, they have been working their tails off on a really, really cool thing, this Project Game Day draft guide. I don't know if that's the proper name.
Sure.
But
it's a draft guide. It's just a draft guide.
Yeah, they've been putting in the hours, watching film, doing all this. Hey, they've been putting in the time. We're really excited to see it. And Santori, are you going to give us a little sneak preview of a page?
Yeah, we can. I also want to make sure, because there is effectively a third person involved in this, that she gets her credit where credit is due. My wife Ashley has been working.
You're the third person. She's now the second person.
Yeah, honestly. I called her to help with linebackers today. Inputting some data. I'd already had the templates done. Copy, paste, make sure it looks right, proofread. This is what it's supposed to look like. Here are the players. Can you work on this? I think we had 20 linebackers. It wasn't a huge group, but it takes at least an hour or two to do those 20 players. That was around 11 o'clock. I called her and she was like, yeah. I'll hop on and do it. Walked her through the first couple. Good to go. She called me at 6. 7 hours later. And she said, well, we have 235 pages now. And I'm looking at it now. We do. And I've gone back and proofread the first 200 pages, and I redid the other 20 players I did. And you asked me to do linebackers, and I've also done corners. So she effectively went through, because how many safeties do we have? 16? It's not a huge safety class. So if there's 230, she went through and proofread 214 of our 230 profiles today and made sure that they looked right in the span of 7 hours. So I want to make sure that she gets her credit there.
Are you saying we should be blowing the horn for her?
Sure. But seriously, no, she's helped out a lot. To give a breakdown, Dale's watched at least 300 players. We initially thought this was going to be about 150 players, and then we had a hard time. And I was like, let's keep it at 200, and then that didn't work.
Well, the 230 was really hard for me, too. I've been wanting to add beyond the 230. Now I'm at 232 officially. But
We're at 232 because we have 2 running backs that we need to definitely add in. There's a best of the rest section with probably, another 25 guys?
Player-wise, it's probably another 100 players to keep
another 100 players. I have not watched those. Of the 232 that have made the guide, I think I missed about 15 during the process, so I can say that I watched tape on over 200. Dale, I'm sure you've watched tape on over 350. Dale wrote up scouting reports on all the 232. I read all the scouting reports on the 232 to make sure they matched, and Ashley has proofread. At this point, it's probably going to be about 276 pages. So the amount of man and woman hours have gone into this project. It's been a lot, and I think I've personally typed 200 pages over the last 24 hours.
Don't let Dale fool you. He watched the guys for next year's draft too.
Oh, he has. That's not a joke. We have a watch list.
I have a watch list.
He's got a watch list, but guess what? The way those lists work is, oh, hey, yeah, I remember watching this guy, and then he pops up on tape from another year. I was watching Tyler Davis out of Clemson, right? And this guy kept flashing when I'm trying to watch Tyler Davis. And I'm like, oh, who's this? I was like, there's Tyler Davis, but that guy did really good again. And that guy did good again. So now I'm like, all right, now I got to pause, find the roster, you go down the rabbit hole. Oh, Well, I just watched 20 minutes of Miles Murphy on mute, and I had a fuzzy game clips, so I didn't know I was watching Miles Murphy. But I really like Miles Murphy this year.
Makes you like Miles Murphy even more.
From 2 years ago.
Well, speaking of all the time that you guys put in, there's guys that don't watch a lot of college ball, and this draft guide is going to be amazing for guys like me and him and other people like that.
Yeah, I'm not that smart to give like all the jargon that some of these guys give and that are way smarter than me. I just give my like layman terms best. Like this is what I see.
I've got a question. Bengal Dad, are you getting a draft guide?
I'll get one. Yeah, I need one.
I know you always.
I watched the draft, and after like 20 minutes, I'm going, I don't know who these guys are.
Well, no, I got to go behind the scenes one time and like watch game tape. They're like, "Oh, Greg, you see what he's doing here?" I'm like, "What? What's he doing? He's doing this. He's doing that." I'm like,
Hey, football.
"Oh boy, I'm way far behind."
So, son number, I can't even number you guys.
Yeah,
Santori.
Yeah.
Is there anybody there that you would be willing to say, as you've done in the past, that's a Hall of Famer right there? Did you run into one? It happens every year.
I have made the Hall of Fame comment one time, and I'm pretty sure I got it right.
So you didn't see one?
I haven't gone through there. There's a couple that I'm really, really, really excited about, especially in like round 4 or 5. I've got, and Dale's seen it because I sent him a couple previews. At the very bottom of the page, and I'll show you one, there's a final thoughts section. Sometimes it's me being sarcastic, something quippy, don't touch this guy, he sucks, he's great, can't miss, boom or bust, whatever. Right. Just a final little on whatever I think about this guy, right? Because the scouting report is mainly Dale's, and then there's my little input at the bottom, and we each have our rankings. If there's a bunch of like little asterisks and stars, it'll say star, Santori, sleeper, star. Yeah. That's somebody that's kind of under the radar that I'm like him. I like him. Let me see if I can find one in here. There's probably 10 or 12.
Well, since I'm your favorite son, Bengal Dad, even though you said Santori, I'll go ahead. And if there's a guy that I think has Hall of Fame potential in this class, it's Joe Alt from Notre Dame. I just love everything about that kid. Like, he wasn't a highly rated recruit, even though he went to Notre Dame. His dad was a former NFL player. He had him playing quarterback and tight end. Like, he didn't want him to play offensive line until he got later in high school. So he didn't even, like, I think when he was at Notre Dame at first, he was playing tight end. And he's transitioned to tackle. And at first it was like right tackle for one game. The left tackle got injured. Slides over to left tackle. Didn't look back for 3 years. He's almost 6'9", 320. His RAS score was like, I think it was 9 point. It was 9 points something ridiculous, 9.9. It just an elite athlete, along with all those traits and the intangibles, the pedigree from being from a football family. And I'm like, man, this kid just has everything you think of, like left tackle. You plug him in, he's going to be a stud. Joe is probably like, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is in this class, but I put Joe Alt right there in that conversation for best.
And he's got part of your last name.
Yeah, well, that's just a bonus.
Think about the jersey combinations you could get.
He's not getting anywhere near that. Like,
well, Dale, I remember when I first talked draft with you, where we're just sitting around chilling, and you're like, and you just get out this huge binder of players. You're like, oh, I got this guy in the 4th round, this guy in the 5th round, and I'll just name a random player. You're like, oh, I got this guy right here and all that. And I'm like, what the hell?
There's a very rudimentary quick preview of just 2 of the quarterbacks in the guide. I'll tell you right now, there might be 3 pictures in the whole guide. I'm not trying to do that, not trying to format it, not trying to add any color. We talked about that. We just want to save people some money if they print it, because it is 270 plus pages.
It's a lot.
So we tried to make it pretty straightforward and clear cut. It's not sexy. It's not overly appealing, but the information that you need is all right there. Just to give you some breakdowns, where they went to school, their class, height, weight, projections, pros on tape, cons on tape. I haven't put our rankings in there yet. This guide is done in order of Dale's rankings, so whoever the first quarterback that pops up is, that'll be quarterback 1, and then mine will be maybe different, maybe the same.
And then his quarterback 1 is Jaden Daniels. Don't let him.
Yeah,
not.
my quarterback
that's
1
that's
is
preview.
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Mine is Caleb Williams. I went full circle with it.
Yep, mine is Jaden Daniels. I'm gonna get a little bit of heat from that. Kieran is gonna love me forever.
And pork chop.
Yeah, and pork chop. They're both LSU guys. But just to give you an idea, when I say that we've typed 1 billion pages,
Yikes.
And that's not to mention the things that are going to be added in with our rankings.
yeah, I've still got
draft
some
needs. Like some of that's going to be added in, and
Yeah.
it's free agent.
This page is
draft
great.
needs.
There's my template.
Name.
Doing great.
But Bengal Dad. We should have a special Bengal Dad one.
What's your RAS score, Bengal Dad?
All right.
It's at
I don't
2.
understand most of that stuff that's in there.
Crypt is asking, when will this become available?
My plan is to have it ready for Dale's approval by about midnight.
And I'm going to be asleep at that point.
So it's probably going to be a tomorrow
morning.
thing. For those of you that have paid, there are a handful of you.
Mm-hmm.
We have sent out like kind of teasers of what we have that we are comfortable putting out there.
I sent out a condensed guide, just a 75-page condensed guide, just 75 pages. For anyone that already paid, I sent out a 75-page condensed guide.
Yes, condensed.
Oh my goodness.
So that's where we're at, but we got a lot of work done today, thanks to Ashley. I still have to go through proofread. There's a couple position groups where I need to change some text from paragraph to bullet point.
Well, also double check your rankings. The thing that I put in for the rankings, you had some guys listed twice, and
it's because they're good, and the other guys didn't make it.
No, they were not that good. You literally were like, I don't care about this guy. I'm putting this guy twice.
Dad, you want to know a couple of my guys always, and there's going to be a section at the very back for just. There's always like those 5 or 6 guys that I'm like, that's my dude. Typically, it's just 1 or 2 per position group, even if they're the number 1 at their group or like 10th in their group for whatever reason. There's always a guy, right? My guy so far is the number 1 running back in this draft class. Greg and James were both sitting on the couch when I saw him for the first time. I said, I don't know who the hell that is, but that's my guy. And now he's the number 1.
Yeah. I'm like, what the? Oh my God, Sador was right.
His name's Benson out of Florida State. Dude is a hell of a running back.
Well, here's my assessment of all the players with all my thorough research that I did. That worthy guy from Texas is flipping fast.
Yeah, he is
And
fast.
so is John Ross.
Holy Moses. Yeah, but he looks fast. I never saw John Ross run.
No, but I talked to Tori about this, and Tori's like, Greg, don't sell any more Blantons over this. Don't do it again.
165 was concerning, and it was like, okay, he's always been a second-round prospect. I'm not moving him in the first round. He did nothing to change that opinion. With a 4.21 breaking the combine record, super impressive. But the 165, he came in light to run that. And then he was like, I'm done. I'm not even doing on-field workouts because this is what
I will say, and I always
165 is a problem.
I always talk to my son about this. Most players that he says are lightning fast, I go, well, he doesn't really look all that fast. That worthy guy, I saw him on game tape. Holy Moses, is he fast?
He is.
I mean,
he does play fast. He is close to a first rounder or an early second. Like, he's got a chance to be special, I think.
He's a fringe player, and I've put this in my final thoughts probably.
Kicker bully.
There's a few kickers. But the thing with Worthy, and I've put this in there in the final thoughts for probably 40 players, and I feel bad saying this, but there's going to be a lot of things in that draft guide that you read several times, especially once you get down to guys that are offensive linemen or defensive linemen. It'll be like, oh, like One of the traits is how well do they shed blocks, and one of the things that I
Those are
always
check marks, though. They're just
they
check
are
marks as you go through it as a
Sure.
evaluator.
But one of the things that I say constantly, especially when it comes to somebody that there's a ton of talent, but sometimes that talent just never translates in the NFL, and sometimes it does, is it's going to depend on where this guy goes.
Always.
It's I hate putting that because that's true for all 275 players in this.
I would
guy.
say receivers probably
It's
more than
so-
any other position, right? Because you
Mhm.
got to have the quarterback. You got to have the opportunity to get on the field.
Well, you've got to have like there's a couple times in that guide where I've said don't let Kansas City get this guy.
Yeah.
Where it's like if Kansas City gets this guy, it's a problem. But if the Bears get him, I'm like, I don't really give a shit. Like,
Kansas City and Xavier Worthy could be one that no one's talking about.
Oh,
yeah, that's. I think he was the guy. I was like, please don't let Andy Reid get his hands on this.
hey, they got John Ross, and look how that worked out.
The other one to me for Kansas City is Fiske.
Oh,
yeah.
Florida State.
Yeah. Hey, real quick. So Crypt was talking about how to get a draft guide. Went ahead and put this on here. This is our Venmo, Crypt. So if you would like to get one, you can Venmo somewhere in the $1 to $5 range. You know, whatever you feel comfortable donating to Project Game Day. And then how will we make sure he gets it, Dale?
Well, hopefully Crip has at least a burner on Twitter, but if not, Facebook. However, anyway, pigeon carrier, anyway, you can let me know your email address because we'll definitely need an email address.
Might
So I
be able
just-
to put that in the comment when you do the when you actually pay on Venmo.
Yeah,
You should be able to put a comment in.
and then
like,
James can send that to me from
Mhm.
if you just put it in the comment that you paid on Venmo. So then, boom, paid and your email address.
Yep.
And you can put.
This is how we finally find out who Crypt is.
No,
This is the only reason we did this guide.
Exactly.
it's been a con the whole time.
It's been Dale the whole time. That's what it is.
I
Still
wish
with
I was
Zach
that
Taylor.
talented.
How
Yeah.
how funny would that be if it was one of us? It's just Santori with a burner.
I see Marshall in the comments. So once
Yeah.
again,
Is Marshall in there?
wow.
I was
Yeah.
not going to isolate him
I cried on
But-
our show earlier.
for what it's worth. It
No,
was a,
yeah, do $1 to $5. Marshall, you had no business
Yeah.
doing that, but
I'm not going to say the dollar amount.
Yeah.
But a sizable donation from Marshall for yeah.
oh,
so
man.
just
He gets to
It-
grab both of Pork Chop's butt cheeks at the event. Because Pork Chop said one butt cheek is included with a hug. But
so
two butt cheeks,
very
that Marshall is already.
very big thank you. Like, I can't
Dude.
state that enough.
Thank you.
Yep. Rob in there too. Marshall
D-
said he can't wait for the butt cheeks of pork chop.
Hey,
But-
Bengal Dad's back.
But direct message Bengals and Brews Twitter with your email, or if you want to put it in your Venmo. Jimmy's kind of controlling the Venmo and sending everybody that donates to me anyways. But if your name is different on Venmo than what it is, I know it on Twitter, DM me, put your email address. It's just easy, simple, and we'll make sure you get the guide soon. And I'll send you the condensed version as we're finishing the other.
So the way that it'll work is we're uploading this as a Google
Pork Chop
Doc.
probably do it too, Rob, to be fair. Just saying.
I'm taking this InDesign document, saving it as a PDF, uploading it to the Google Drive as a Google Doc. I'm not password protecting it, but you will have to request access to it. So once you pay for it, the link will be public. Anybody can access the link to it, but you'll have to request access. As soon as I get a thumbs up from Dale saying, hey, he's paid, I'll have an entire email list just for anybody that's wanting access. And good job, thumbs up, let's go.
And did you get my note? So like the first 10 email address, I added you to that, and I'll keep updating it.
Okay. I did not get that note, but yeah.
Okay. I added you as a collaborator on that, so you would be able to see it. So we'll make sure that's. But either way, text, DM. Me and Santori's going to make sure y'all get your draft guide soon this week. this week. If you pay this week, you're getting it this week. I promise.
Yeah, it'll most likely be perfected and going live sometime tomorrow. But my plan is to have 95% of it done tonight, and we're probably 90% of the way there now. We've got a couple graphics to insert, a couple index pages, and here's the other thing. If I get close enough, because it's a live Google Doc that y'all will have access to,
It'll continue to update.
If I need to go back and change something, I mean, I'm to the point now that I feel comfortable putting it up now and just still filling it out as I go, because we've got some time. But we'll have it up sometime tonight, and you'll have access tomorrow morning. But I want to make sure I at least get my rankings in, my final thoughts in, a little bit more proofreading done as we go, and probably 2 or 3 times a week over the next, month. I'll probably stop editing anything by April 1st, just because I do want there to be a finalized point that it's done. But over the course of the next week or two, and it'll be things for if someone gets in serious trouble or they're decommitting from the draft, or
maybe there's an insane pro day even, and so we
right,
have that as a note.
Or you have a Laramie Tunsil situation 2 months ahead of time. Hey, guess what?
I definitely seen Marvin Harrison Jr. with the gas mask,
or if you find it, or if
he
you
needs
find
to
out,
drop to 18.
Or what if nobody went to Caleb Williams' birthday party? What if none of his teammates went to his birthday party? You got to put that in perspective.
Greg's on the movie again.
Add that in there.
It'll be live sometime tomorrow, and it'll be, I would say, 95% done tonight. And there'll be some tweaks and stuff over the next
and even
week
if we need an extra day to tweak before we feel like putting out the final guide, if you pay and you send me the email, or Jimmy, he does very good at telling me, hey, this person, and I'll go get their email if they didn't send it. Cincy James, sorry, not Jimmy. But
I don't care.
But I will make sure that you get the condensed version in the morning.
Yep.
If you paid tonight, I will make sure you get that at minimum, and then you will get the other one as soon as we feel like, hey, we had enough time to check it, because I don't want Ashley to be up all night.
No, I have told Ashley she is done, and she was still working on, right before I popped on here at 6:57, whatever that was. She was working on it. I had to kick her out of here, and she looked at me, turned around, she goes, "I have earned a Taco Bell and Pepsi," and I was like, "If that's all it takes."
Yeah, she's earned a lot more than that, man. Just phenomenal work by Ashley, honestly.
Well, like Rob said, you guys have put forth the effort.
Yes, they did.
Really did the work.
I really think you'll see it too in the guide. You'll see it. I'm not trying to we're not Dane Brugler. It's not the Beast. We don't have some of the expert stuff he has.
I don't have an entire crew working for me. It's 2 fat guys in Ohio. That's
the name of the draft guide.
Oh, 2 fat guys in Ohio would be a good podcast too.
Right.
Anywho, but there is another section that I had nothing to do with this part. This one was 100% Dale. He actually graded each individual prospect and put a number on it, like you would see. I think his is out of 10. The highest I think was like a 9 something. But I guess that's how you ranked them. I liked that page. We're sticking that in there.
I created that a year ago, and I was like, I want to have something that it's like, and I'm attaching it to where I think they'll get drafted too. But then I also want to put, I think of them as.
We haven't released anything to you, Matt.
Yeah,
I was going to say that the tale of 2 comments. We got looking forward to learning from it and seeing the guy.
It's shit.
Fucking hate.
Even though he hasn't seen it yet, he already knows it is.
I'm glad he created Project Game Day, and I put all this work in for Project Game Day, and he's like, "It's shit, buddy." I'm doing it. It's free. I did get nothing out of this.
Oh, Darth said, never mind. He wants his refund.
Well, you're not getting the refund for all the change you made.
Do you want your $1 back?
You know what? I'll reveal
Can
to
we
you
give a
who my-
shout out to Darth, by the way?
Yeah.
How
I do it
many
every day,
chains?
man.
How many chains and how much money has he raised?
51 last count of mine, like that I seen him post.
Jimmy, you're our treasurer here. What are the stats for this?
Hold on. Let me look here real quick. Because every once in a while,
You're in that picture. I never noticed that.
Oh yeah, and
Bengal
he's
Dad's
got,
in the back.
Bengal Dad.
let's see. I'm not going to give like exact numbers, but
Give me a ballpark.
got to get through all the people that have paid for seats for the draft event coming up April 26th at 7:00. Let's see.
Midwest best barbecue.
No.
51 total. Waiting on shipping. The last few chains, Darth said. Darth, honestly, man, you're literally going to get at least a couple different game tickets for two people with the amount of money you raised. And that's if we're doing a gas, I mean, these are things that we don't want to say is official, but we want to put a gas or this or that and parking. All this money is going directly into helping these people make sure they can attend the game and feel comfortable doing it.
So here it is. It's roughly $900-ish that he has raised for Project Game Day on his own, making chains. And I may have shortchanged that too, but making the change.
Huh?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And he's been mailing them out to everybody. I mean, he's been putting in the man hours too. It's really incredible. This, and I think Matt is on.
Well, he may have raised almost 1,000, but Marshall paid us a good amount for a draft guide. So suck it, Darth.
Well, and I think that Matt would echo this sentiment. He's in the chat. He's probably going to say it's shit, but this would
he already did.
This
he
is
did.
That's shit too. It's all
this
shit.
would not Project Game Day would not be what it is without Darth. I fully believe that. I really do.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. He is honestly the backbone of Project Game Day to me because we don't even get close to this money and being like, hey, you know what? If the Bengals host the home playoff game, we might be able to do that too if this event goes well. Like, I mean, what you've done, Darth Bengal, honestly, man, from the bottom of my heart, incredible.
He just messaged us one day and said, "How can I help?" Basically. That's it.
And we poured him out with all his chains.
Matt agrees. That's correct.
Yeah, that's not shit, Darth.
Yeah. He's right though. It has made it so much easier. We've just with everything you've done. And by the way, my mom would like once the requests open up again. Her and my sister would like some. So there you go.
I've got like 10. Hello. They're all scattered around back there, but I've got a ton of them.
Oh, I thought she was talking about something else.
No,
my mind was in the gutter. I was going to get both of them.
Hey, here's one. I know we were talking Bengals stuff, but this is one that he made for me. A Reds one. This thing,
dude,
that will knock somebody out.
Like that looks like Flava Flav would wear that around, and he probably paid like $2,000 for a chain.
This is some crappy other show I'm on. I don't know what it is.
Shut the heck up, Greg. Like I censor myself.
Oh my god!
I like them because they make me feel like Flava Flav.
Right? That's what. Yeah.
Rally around the natty.
I don't have that one yet. That one's awesome.
I gotta get that one.
That's a special edition one.
Wow! How did you get it? Bengal Dad should have that.
I don't really remember how I got this one.
I think it's actually Bengal Dad's.
Probably.
Yeah, he made it for Bengal Dad, and you kept it. What a jerk!
Uh-oh. Hey, Darth just said there may be a few green and black ones at the St. Taddy's Day event.
Ooh.
Yeah, when we had Matt on that other show that Greg's a part of, he was like, maybe Darth could make a chain for that. And I was like, man, Darth is just taking a break. I said that on air. And he's like, well, I'm not saying he has to. And then Darth immediately was on it.
Yeah. It's Cap Shield. You're right.
It really could be. You could knock somebody out with that.
But man, it's we got a really cool event. Really neat.
I just wanted to eat chicken wings and watch the second round with Greg.
I
And I went to
really-
bed and woke up to a charity.
Here's what happened. Because we had nowhere to watch it, and we're like, and I think
We had nowhere to watch it because Bengal Dad moved.
Yeah. Oh, look at me on Bengal Dad. I moved.
Anybody. And I just called Midwest. I'm like, hey, do you guys mind just staying over after the draft? It's like, no, let's just do that. And one thing led to another, and this is how it happened.
No, but here's the thing. When you say one thing led to another, you mean it. I went to bed at 9:30 that night with the impression that draft night 2, second and third round, it was going to be like you, me, a couple beers, maybe someone else from the area like Pork Chop and Kieran, watching the second round going, who's that guy? Didn't think we had that in a notebook. And now I wake up the next morning to 300 text messages, and the first one I saw was, do we need an LLC? And I went, what in the hot hell happened when I was in bed?
Well, what just happened here?
And none of it would be possible without the people that support us. And I mean, Darth, especially, number one in general, he is the MVP. But just the people that support coming to the event and this, that, and the other that are buying tickets for the event. And I think there's 14 left. So if you want to come watch the draft after hours, get a meal from Midwest, $30, boom, you're set, and you get to hang out with Greg.
And that $30 that covers the food, that covers, I believe, a beer, that includes a donation to Project Game Day.
Yeah, it's built in.
It's everything that could possibly be built into that night, with the exception of anything else for like a split the pot or a raffle. That $30 includes. I mean, that's going to include your cover, your food, your beer, everything. And so it's not just like $30 to get in, then something. 30 total.
And there may be some rally around the natty koozie giveaways, I heard.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. Yay.
Maybe predict the pick, the Bengals second round pick. Predict it as they're coming up on the clock. You guess it, you get a rally around the natty koozie.
Also, Tim and Nicole. I mean, can we just? I mean, every day, just Tim and Nicole. They're just such awesome. I don't even know how to. I don't know if I even have words. They're just like two awesome people. They're just incredible.
They make good mac and cheese,
and they are phenomenal people. But it's Industrious has the comment of the night, and Jimmy, you gotta pop it. If you really want to help raise money for Project Game Day, stuff those singles in Greg's G-string live at Midwest Best Barbecue.
Hey, and Rob said, yeah, it's for charity.
Yeah, you can.
Look, I'm all about charities, but no.
Mom said she paid extra because she thought that Dale was going to pole dance.
Man, that better be an extra sturdy pole. That's all I'm going to say.
We need a whole ass jungle gym for that.
We need an extra thick pole.
Dad, you're muted. I don't know what she said. Come on now.
Did he mute himself?
I hit the button.
There we go.
I'm going to scoot out of here. I got boards to take down and boards to put up.
Yeah, I know you're like building your house from scratch, and that's why we have nowhere to watch the draft.
But we're going to watch it at Midwest.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dad.
Best barbecue. All right, see you guys.
See you, buddy.
Au revoir.
Love you, Dad.
Dad.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
I gotta check on my. What you lubed it? Oh my god! I'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, I'll be back.
If you guys end it, it's fine. But
I'm scared.
I do gotta check on.
No, man, no.
And Rob said this took a turn. Yep. And then Mom, yeah, thanks.
Thanks,
Glad
Sean.
I saw that from you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dad.
No, it's.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
We're all really excited about it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's gonna be great. So the food, it's not just like, oh, you get a couple wings and a beer. No, you get an appetizer. You get your choice of main course, and that could be 6 wings. It could be 10 wings. It could be 2 sides, 1 side, depending on what you get. Barbecue sandwich, and a beer or a fountain drink if you don't drink, and you don't have to.
No, but if you priced everything out a la carte or just like a regular combo, I mean,
oh shoot,
a
it's
beer,
over
an appetizer, 6 wings and 2 sides. I mean, you're easily $20. So I mean, you're right there.
Easily, because the beer's going to be $5 or $6 by itself.
Yeah. So I mean, you're
Absolutely.
$25.
Yeah,
This
it's going to be up there. But yeah, we're really excited about it. We're putting in a lot of work, and
Plus, you get to watch me scream at the TV, and
we could see me pace
every
around.
single time someone gets drafted, Greg goes, "Oh, I wanted him."
You're like Greg. That's like the 50th person you just said you wanted.
Greg wants a lot of.
No, I pace around. See, that's another thing. I pace around. Oh, Shelly, come on! Don't do this to me, Shelly.
I could order one if you'll wear it.
No. Cut. I will do a dance if we stop talking about this.
Do it.
Hold on.
I gotta put on my dance.
You've got 10 seconds.
10
Okay.
seconds.
Yeah.
No, I'm not in my dance clothes.
You're going Big Savage mode.
He does
10
have a whole
seconds.
dance outfit, by the way.
Hey, is that a good place to stop it after the dance?
Oh yeah, you have to end it right after.
I'll do the dot bot. Just let me get my pants on. I'll be right back.
Real quick, everybody,
Let me get my pants on. So he wasn't wearing pants the entire
Probably
time.
not. Thank you for hopping on and listening to Jay Morrison talk about the Bengals stuff, and then listening to us clamor on about an awesome draft guide and an awesome event. Thank you so much for listening.
Joe Mixon's getting cut. It's not a rumor and it's not reporting, but it's happening.
I'll believe it when I see it. Is what
I'm making a reveal here. These are my new shorts. So we're gonna. I think they're pink. We don't know if they're red or not, but I'm gonna wear these to the Reds games. But here we go. I'll do the dot bot.
All right, in 10 seconds. You ready?
Yeah.
Ready.
That's my trash you done made, so you bagged him. I'm a savage. Yeah. Classy, bougie, ratchet. Yeah. Sassy, moody, nasty.
Here we go. I'm doing the dot bot. I'm doing the robot up here, but I'm doing the dot also right here in gym class and all that and stuff. I retired, but I came back with it. Yeah. Well, shit. That's about it.
And right into the stretch. Looking back and throws up the middle. Throws is on his way around. Picked up by